go. Today, boy, I'm excited. We got Robert, Melvin in the building. This is TM3 Impact. My name is Tomas Martinez. This show is brought to you by Luxury Home Magazine and Spanish Grove Academy, the #1 Spanish immersion school by reviews in the city of San Antonio. Super excited, Robert, to have you here, my friend.
The pleasure's mine.
Listen, we're going to jump right into it because there's a lot to talk about with you. You got a lot going on. You are an entrepreneur. So I want to know, just right off the bat, tell me your San Antonio story. How did you get to San Antonio? The Cliff Note version.
All right, Cliff Notes. I'm originally from Houston, Texas. I've lived in approximately 12 states. Met my wife in Washington, D.C., attended law school in Michigan. We were living in Connecticut. It was that next move where, this is where we were going to set down roots. Living anywhere outside of the state of Texas, you realize that communities are very, very small, right? They are walkable, for lack of a better kind of description. So we would be coming from a city in Connecticut where literally I would walk to work every day.
That's awesome.
To the city of Houston, where you're going to be sitting in traffic for 45 minutes, going 5 miles, right? So that wasn't an option for us. At the time, then Governor Perry was hosting a business recruitment summit in the city of New York. I was invited to come and participate in the dinner. I sat there and listened to a very charismatic Governor Perry, as well as Secretary of State Roger Williams, give the most Texas welcome anybody could ever imagine. They walked in, they told their stories, but ultimately they said, if you want to make more money, you want your employees to make more money, you want your company to be more profitable, pack your bags and move to Texas.
Right.
I'm Roger Williams, I'm Governor Perry. Thank you. And I thought it
so
was.
So this was the pitch.
Oh, that was the pitch.
Wow.
And I'm a little guy sitting in the corner, and I'm like, I'm done.
Yeah.
And so I was very fortunate to be asked by the governor's administration to step in and head up the small business advocacy arm of his administration. And I was humbled, and we said yes. My wife was recruited to San Antonio. We didn't have any kids. My work ethic is crazy. So waking up at 4 o'clock, being on the road by 5, I could be in Austin by 6:30 was not a problem. And then I would just wait until
So
7
you were
o'clock.
making that drive
Every day.
from San Antonio to Austin every day.
Every day.
Wow.
Every day.
How long?
3.5 years.
3.5 years. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And so at that point, San Antonio became home because of the feel. Big city, right? Yeah. You can get that big city feel. But when I was moving in, I was able to sit down with the head of economic development, the industry leaders, just on a phone call from a mentor of mine, and you can't get that anywhere else in the world.
No, it's so true.
And it was a blessing in disguise.
It's so true. So you end up in San Antonio. I'm super glad you did. And we ended up meeting because of LSA.
That's right.
Yes, Leadership right. San Antonio. And that's how we ended up meeting. So now I want to...
Class of 41, by the way.
Class of 41. Now they try to say it's the best class ever.
Oh, they don't try.
They
don't try. They say it loud and they say it proud.
They do say it proud. That is very true. They are very proud, but I want to just make a case for 39, okay?
There you go.
39 was the original best class ever, right? And then 41 had to come and make it right. But hey, I was on the steering committee for 41, so we had a good time.
It's that flavor that made us what we were.
That's right. We had a good time. So what I want to do now, we know how you got to San Antonio. I want to go back a little bit. And because if you have the chance, you guys, please look at this man's LinkedIn account. You got to go to Robert Melvin's LinkedIn account. And when you see his story laid out, you realize that this is an entrepreneur's entrepreneur. And one of the things that I'm curious about is I want to know, take me back to your first entrepreneurial moment.
Wow. There are several. I come from a family of entrepreneurs. So my grandfather, with a 6th grade education, moved to the city of Houston, He owned several gas stations, a package store that's still around today. So I was always around the idea of being your own boss, right? The master of your fate, controlling every aspect of one's life. And my first job was, working at the liquor store, right?
Wow.
I would break down boxes.
Yep.
And I'd get $20.
Okay.
So the neighborhood that I grew up in wasn't the most safe or savory neighborhood. So a lot of the guys that would purchase their vices would, sit on the side of the building and they would consume. And where I would break the boxes down, I'd have to cross these guys.
Okay.
And, I was scared. I'm 8 years old, 7 years old, 7, 8 years old. And you have to walk by and you're listening to the street talk. And finally, I came back in, and my grandfather's knowing that my production was slowing down. He goes, "Man, I'm not giving you $20 just to give you $20. And I said, "Well, there are these guys on the side of the building." He said, "Well, what are they doing?" I was like, "Well, they're drinking and, they're kind of just hanging out, talking loud." He goes, "All right." He goes, "Well, where do they buy their alcohol?" "I assume from you." And he goes, "Okay, so if you're nervous, why wouldn't you go out there and befriend, engage?" And I'm 8 years old.
Right,
man,
right.
And these are like,
These are grown men.
Grown men, winos, right? And so, he goes, "Well, how much money are you getting?" "That's $20. That's what you promised me." He goes, "Well, do you need that 20? He goes, "I'm buying you lunch." He goes, "Do you need the whole 20? And the message was not sinking in. He goes, "Well, what if you just made 10?
Yeah.
And I said, "Okay." He goes, "What if you went out there and offered those guys $10 to break those boxes down? You think they would accept it?" And, nervously, I go out and I broker a deal where, I'd give them $10 and I'd bring the boxes from inside the store, throw them on the side of the building. They break them down, put them in nice pallets. And if they got it to my grandfather's approval, because that's all that mattered.
Right.
Then I'd give them the 10.
And you kept
And
the other
I kept
10.
the other 10. So
goodness.
that was the first lesson.
Right.
And
That's a good lesson.
so on Saturdays, what was a very anxious-filled kind of movement then became like butter, because now it was, all right, now all I have to do is, all right, do we have boxes to break down? Because that was the easy chore.
Right.
Cleaning the glass, floors, that was all me. But breaking down those boxes, now I increase my ability to, make some money while kind of minimizing the amount of work that I actually had to put in.
Right.
And so I would say that was my first kind of, entrepreneurial experience.
Yeah.
And then, from there, there's always that, all right, how can I make a little extra scratch?
Okay.
So in high school, you notice your friends' cars are really dirty.
Okay.
And, there's nothing more important than a clean ride when you're in high school, right? So I started cleaning or washing, my peers' cars.
Oh, wow.
And then one of the parents was like, "Man, you do a really good job." Now, all I was doing was taking it to the gas station, getting the $5 wash or the $2 wash, put some Armor All on the tires,
Okay.
put a little spray on the inside so it smells good, and you make $10, $10, $15.
Yeah.
Well, then the parents caught wind, and they were like, "Hey, can you come and do our cars?"
Yeah.
And so you kind of fall
Now
back.
you got a
and
business.
Now it's a business, right? And so on Saturdays, I'd wake up, I'd go get the parents' car, meet them at their home, and they all, typically they would have multiple cars, whether they were old or new or whatever, but I would detail all those cars. And she
So
goes,
they would give you the keys and let you drive
"Oh,
to go.
yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah, absolutely.
You were 16 years old.
I was 16, 17 years old.
Okay.
Yeah. So
How big did you get?
I was doing about $300 to $400 a weekend.
Oh my goodness.
Because that was
That's awesome.
the first question is, well, how much do you charge?
Right.
Well, I'm charging your daughter $10.
Right.
But if she has $10, you got to have at least
Right.
100.
Right.
So,
Right.
So you kind of play with it. And the first number I threw out was I don't know where I got it from, but I was $75 for cars, $125 for SUVs.
Oh, snap.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you turned it into a business.
Oh, I was all in.
That's fantastic.
I was
really, that was probably one of your first kind of like business ventures. Did you get to the point where you had your card, like a business card or a flyer? Were you doing any of that? Was this pure word of mouth?
Pure word of mouth.
Wow.
Pure word of mouth. And they kept me busy because what would happen is the neighbors would see their vehicles and then they say, well, who does your cars? And they go, oh, my daughter's classmate. And so then I'd come over the following weekend. And so all I needed was really four clients, 4 homes. Because the rotation would then start over, after 4 weeks, I'd go back to the original
there you go.
house. And
yeah,
so
repeat business.
Constant. It's the flywheel.
All right, so I love that. That's a great story. And this, I don't know, we probably have some young listeners. Or I want to, the parents, if you're listening to this right now, I would imagine there's some parents out there going, man, I wish my kids would just try to do something entrepreneurial. And the thing is I think that in this day and age, there's such a distraction. There's so many things to distract them from even the opportunity that, hey, let them listen to this and help them understand that something small can turn into something bigger. And I'll give you a case in point. My dad and I are golfing. We're at Canyon Springs Golf Course right here down the street. And we come around, I don't know, it's hole 6, 7, whatever, and it's going in between the neighborhood. This hole cuts in between the neighborhood, and we come upon this boy and a girl, and they have golf balls. Now, I'm talking like baskets and baskets of golf balls. So I walk up and I'm as a former teacher, as a dad, I'm looking at this and I'm going, okay, how much are your golf balls? I'm just, well, these are $2. These are the Pro V1s.
Right on.
They knew their product.
Absolutely.
That blew me away. I ended up buying about $6 worth of balls and a couple of those soccer balls. You seen the ones that look like soccer balls?
Absolutely.
Okay, so I ended up buying those for my son, and I remember going home and I told Enzo, I said, Enzo, I want to tell you, and I told him this story. And I thought, man. So last question I asked the kids, I said, how long y'all been doing this? They said, we've been doing this for about 3 years. Guess how much money? This blew my mind. They had raised almost $10,000 selling golf balls.
Oh, they didn't raise it.
Goodness gracious, they worked.
They made it.
Yeah, they made that money. But when you saw the baskets, each one of them was divided up. They knew the brands. They knew everything.
Absolutely.
It blew my mind.
Absolutely.
So, I'm glad you shared that story about your first entrepreneur. So who was your first mentor? Who was the person? Was it the uncle? Was it someone along in a family member? Because you were raised with entrepreneurs, so I'm curious.
I would say my first mentor would have been my brother, because I think that there's individuals that are in your life that provide lesson.
Okay.
But the role of the mentor is to help you kind of decipher what that lesson is and its application.
Okay.
To the life, right? So my grandfather would deposit pearls of wisdom constantly. I mean, he was a walking, old wise man.
Okay.
And it sometimes goes over your head, right? It's not until later, or not until you're able to kind of get that individual who is able to help decipher what those messages meant. And it's after being repeatedly nailed into your head or drilled into your head that you now understand what he's trying to convey.
Okay.
And at that point, it kind of opens your eyes. So I would say my first mentor would have been my brother, Timothy Melvin. He's now my business partner.
Okay. Yeah. And what's the biggest thing you think you've learned from your brother?
Oh man, there's so many things.
Yeah.
Right. So,
older or younger?
He's older.
He's older. Okay.
He's older. Anything that you do it with 100% of yourself, or you don't do it at all.
I like that. That's good.
And that is it's a blessing and a curse. I have that as a personality trait. I am all or none.
Yeah, you're all in.
100%. And it doesn't matter what it is. I never half-ass whatever it is that we're approaching. And you get what you put in, right?
That's right?
So if you go in with a half step, then you're going to get a half step result. And then it makes you question the ultimate decision. Like, was that worth, was that a bad decision? Well, no, it may not have been a bad decision, but you didn't give it an opportunity to grow. You didn't give that seed an opportunity to produce fruit. because you only half watered it.
Yeah.
And so I would say that that's probably one of the best lessons that he's taught me. And he's a lot older. He's like 15 years older.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm the youngest of 7.
You're the baby.
I'm the baby.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Youngest
Okay.
of 7. So those lessons were drilled in my head at an early age that, whether it was, cutting the grass, and then as kids, you always look for kind of ways out of doing things. I'm going to do the backyard. Then I'll go back and I'll do the front yard. Or I'm going to cut the front yard because that's what they see. They don't go see the backyard.
Right.
So as long as the front yard is nice and tight, I can put the backyard off. And then there's a hard lesson there because that backyard doesn't stop growing.
That's right.
And so that means you're putting in, 3 times the work to accomplish something that would have taken you, an hour. Now you got to take 3 hours just to get it done.
Yeah.
So, I would say that was the first real mentor. Now, since then, I've been extremely fortunate to kind of diversify my mentor portfolio.
That's right. Yes.
I think you.
Yes, which leads me to this next question because I do think, when you what brought you here was being able to be a part of the small business advocate. You became a small business advocate,
certainly,
in Austin, right? And I would imagine you got to meet just the who's who in business across Texas, internationally. You even told me about that internationally. Talk a little bit about, what it was that you learned while, you were in this role as a small business advocate.
So that's a great question. In the role of small business advocate, as the Texas small business advocate, my responsibilities were to assist the growth and expansion of small to mid-size firms through, government contracting, through international growth and development, through market expansion. And in that capacity, I was a one-man shop.
Wow.
And so that was the first challenge, right?
Okay.
How do I create an environment that allows for me to appear as the 800-pound gorilla because I have the backing of the executive office of the state of Texas, but we don't have the resources currently to be able to have the outreach that's necessary.
Okay.
And one of the first tasks was, how do I increase my presence with the limited resources that I'm afforded, right? So the first thing that I set out to do was to travel the state and meet with every small business development center, as well as every SBA regional representative, to align myself with their efforts so that we can kind of create a partnership.
Yeah.
And I didn't know how that was going to unfold. Yeah. Well, it worked out fantastically because what ultimately happened was that there was this desire and this hunger to have more of a relationship with the state of Texas, in particular the Economic Development Office. And by me going out, and that was on my 3-month, 6-month, 1-year plan, it allowed for me now to increase my presence across the state, being only one man.
Wow.
And I forged fantastic relationships with those SBDC centers, as well as the SBA offices. And so that was the first kind of task. Yeah. The second was I needed money. Like I needed to get funding for.
Oh, this was a direct funded group.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, I was. The small business advocate position is a legislatively funded position.
Wow.
So from a job security standpoint, as long as I was able to kind of keep my head above water, I would be able to kind of ride that wave. Okay. But there is no joy in riding a wave, right? You got to continue to kind of push the envelope. So what I was able to do is secure $1.5 million in funding from the Texas Workforce Commission to support small business initiatives across the state. Okay. So now I was able to grow my shop from a one-man shop to a 5-man shop.
And how long?
And that was within the first 18 months.
Wow, that's awesome.
And part of that strategy was I did not want to hire individuals that were just interested in working in the executive branch. I needed to hire, industry leaders, right? So my first team was former CEOs.
Okay.
And I'm a 27, 28-year-old, know nothing kid.
Yeah.
And I'm talking
You
to
knew a whole lot more than you thought.
Well, absolutely. But there's an intimidation factor when you
True.
sit across the table and you're interviewing, you know, a 55, 60-year-old man who has been the former CEO of Goodwill or, you know, all of these fantastic organizations. So another life pearl was you got to fake it till you make it.
Yeah.
Right. So you never let them see you sweat.
Yeah.
So when I would engage in these interviews, some of them I knew that I wouldn't be able to work with because optically they would never be able to kind of see themselves in a role that I was trying to create.
Right.
I was fortunate. Malcolm Gardner, Thomas Walker, Larry Ruggiano. Nikita Rogers. I mean, these were really thought-provoking leaders who got excited about going out, because we were in the field. This was not a cushy sit back, answer the phone kind of a gig. This was, we're going to be on the field. We're going to be meeting with small businesses. We're going to be bringing our expertise to the table. We'll be conversely going to the state and seeing what opportunities exist.
Okay.
Where is the lowest hanging fruit for these various industries?
Yeah.
And it was honestly the best time I think I've had. It definitely goes.
So you were
there.
on the road.
Man, we were rolling.
You were on the road.
We were
So was this more of a consulting play? Was this, you were bringing these guys in to help go out and consult small businesses? Was it from a consulting, or was it more helping them make more connections?
A combination of both, right?
Okay.
So there's an education component associated with it. So if you're let's say you're in asphalt, and you're a successful company that's working in a local kind of level, but you're not aware that TxDOT is actively pursuing and seeking, in small businesses to, help with the expansion of the I-35 corridor, or you're, in the landscaping business, and you have, bush hogs and tractors, but you're kind of operating on a local level, not knowing that there's state contracts that are available where you need to clean up this portion of highway, and this opportunity exists, but there's a shortage of small businesses that are actually out there who are engaged, but it's not because they don't exist, because they don't know.
They have no idea the opportunity is
Absolutely.
there. Wow.
So what we would do is we partner with TxDOT, we partner with Health and Human Services, we partner with Texas Workforce Commission, so that on our side, we understood what opportunities existed, and then on the flip side, we use our network of SBDCs, the Small Business Development Centers that we had created.
Because you had already built those relationships.
Those relationships were in existence, and now we would use them as the outlet to be able to push that information out to their regions.
Okay.
And so it was fun.
Yeah.
I can honestly say that, driving the entire state of Texas may not have been the most fun.
Right.
But
Did you get a company vehicle with this? Or
yeah, we get a company vehicle. They weren't
that Ford Taurus?
Exactly. And remember the age of these guys.
Right.
So we're listening to smooth jazz
all
the entire
day.
trip, right? And they're
going to listen to Les Brown. They got some motivational tapes.
Tapes. Because,
Tapes.
that's the kind of era we were in.
Right.
But I wouldn't trade those moments for anything in the world.
Bet.
I'm still in contact with everybody, and we talk about it. We had, we were very aggressive. We had a lot of fun. And it was good timing.
That's fantastic, man. So I think it's interesting because I knew a little bit about that, but now hearing it and understanding it really helps even paint a picture, knowing what you've been able to accomplish recently,
right,
because of your project at the Pearl, the project that you have at Park Avenue, and just the logistics of having to figure out how to create a patent and all of the things with the storage containers. There's so many moving pieces, but you were 3 years figuring out how to put together pieces, put together the puzzle, because you were seeing the opportunity, but now you had to be the connector.
Correct.
So what do you obviously those 3 years you're using all of those skills constantly in what you do today.
That's absolutely correct.
Yeah.
I think there's an old saying, a man who fails to plan is planning to fail.
Right.
And so every aspect of what we do is about pen and paper,
Yeah.
right? You know, I can't tell you how many times that I pull over on the side of the road to jot down ideas or questions. I mean, even on the way over here this morning, I'm on the phone with my general contractor like, hey, what if we, you know, expand by 320, you know, can we reduce height? You know, just constantly allowing for the ideas that are in your subconscious to come to fruition. And you can only do it through planning, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and it may be painstaking, but it's necessary.
Yeah.
You know, and failing is necessary, right?
Yes.
So, you know, I don't want this to come across that everything that I do is gold. Like, is far from the truth. But early on, I met a mentor who said, you know, you want to fail fast.
Yeah.
Right? So you want to be able to understand that the direction or the path that you're on is not going to yield the fruit that you are expecting very quickly.
Yep.
Because that allows for you to kind of fall back, reassess, re-strategize, and then go plant new seeds.
Yep.
And that's a very humbling experience because nobody wants to be a failure. Nobody likes that idea. But the reality of it is there is no success without those failures, right?
That's so true.
It's, you know, those become notches on the ladder that help you get further along. It took me a long time to appreciate that. I could share some early kind of, you know, experiences where you felt like, man, I knew better. I should have did this. I can't believe I lost so much money because of X, Y, or Z.
Yeah.
I'm never doing it again. I'm going to get a 9-to-5.
Right.
And then, you know, you realize, well, you won't make that mistake again.
Right. You learn.
You know that you know that there's a bar there, so you know you need to duck.
Right.
You know, or you will hit your head again.
Or a stiff jab from Tony.
Or a stiff jab, and you know, great point, right? I know about that left
You know
hand.
about that?
So if I know about the left hand, when I get hit, I can't go cry to Tomas and say, "Hey, Tomas, I got hit with his left hand."
That's right.
He's a lefty.
That's right. Yeah. I think it was interesting what you said earlier because you say you go all in when you do something. And I think that's for entrepreneurs that are out there that if you're listening to the TM3 Impact, we appreciate you. Make sure you share. But I think the interesting thing is that if you don't go all in, it's really hard to have that fast failure, right? It's like a slow burn. Like you kind of dip your toe in, like, I'm going to try this.
Correct.
And then it's like this slow process. And you kind of know that, man, things aren't working. I don't know if this is working. But because you didn't go all in, you didn't get to that failure quick enough. You didn't learn quick enough. Touch on that.
Without question. I think there's entrepreneurial books, small business books, motivational books, leadership books. I mean, there are, you know, no shortage of writings on how to succeed as an entrepreneur. But there is nothing that can take the place of trial and error.
That's so
and
true.
When you're reading these books, you know, the first thing that I would just kind of throw out there is that he's making money on that book. So that's an entrepreneur who wrote a book that you purchased to better yourself, but you're, you know, kind of furthering that entrepreneur's mission of spreading the word.
Yep.
So I think it's extremely important that when you make that decision that I am going to do whatever it is that, you know, you're going to do, two things. One, it has to be your passion.
Yeah.
Right? It cannot be driven by money. Money is a byproduct of whatever that thing is. The planting, the fruit of that tree is a byproduct of the seed, the soil, the water, you know, making sure that it's protected and, you know, you're nourishing, keep the weeds out of the garden, right?
Yep.
And then that you're allowing that tree to flourish. And then you reap the benefit, which is the fruit. You can't reap the fruit if you're not monitoring or paying attention to the soil and that seed.
Yeah.
And I use that analogy a lot because that's what we do, right? We're planting seeds in an effort to extract fruit, but if there's no passion, if there's no true interest in what you're doing, then it's going to be highly difficult for that to be a success because you don't believe in it 100%.
Right.
Right. And then for those that maintain, and by no means is my journey your journey or anybody else's. So I'm not encouraging you to quit your job and go out and, mortgage the house or do anything of that nature. Everybody has their own path. But I didn't, when I made the decision to jump out and to become an entrepreneur, I knew I could not maintain my 9 to 5.
Yeah.
So when I left the governor's office, I knew that if I would have kept my pension, if I would have kept my retirement plan, if I would have kept those things, then that safety net is always an option.
Yep.
And when I decided to leave, I did probably one of the dumbest things, but most brilliant things I could have ever done.
Yeah.
And that was I cashed all of it in.
Interesting.
And when you do that, you're basically saying, I'll never come back and touch this.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And you have to go through an exit interview process, and they're like, hey, whoa, no, time out. Let me explain.
Have you talked to your financial advisor?
Let me explain to you what you're actually doing right now.
Right.
If you come back, this won't be here.
Yeah.
And they run it through the mill. But I knew that if it was there, then when the pressure was too much, and the pressure is going to come, then, I might be tempted to pick up the phone and say, do you need my assistance? Can I come back? Is there something there for me?
Yeah.
But if that's gone, well, hell, I'm starting from scratch.
Yeah.
So that appeal was no longer present.
Yeah.
And so I cut the strings of that safety net, and I jumped in with both feet.
It's the idea of burning the ships. You just burn the ships, and hey,
man, I'm on a canoe.
We don't have a choice. we don't have a choice.
That's right.
Yeah.
You burn the ships. You sit on that canoe and you try to make a paddle.
Yeah. You just got to keep going.
And that's all you can do.
Right. I love it. So let's talk about right now. You are in the midst of putting a project and wrapping up a project by the Pearl.
Yes, sir.
And we'll this will kind of lead into the last couple of questions. And I'm going to put the pictures up, but I want you. I remember you and I had a cigar session, and we were talking about this idea of storage containers. And I remember because my wife and I we're always fascinated by houses, hence Luxury Home Magazine. But this has been a trend that's been around for a while. People have been trying to figure out, sustainable housing, right? Trying to figure out how can we make housing more affordable, but then how can we take something, reuse it and repurpose it and make it better. And so I remember in the cigar session, we're talking, you're like, hey, I'm going to make these luxury townhouses, and I'm going to make them out of storage containers. And I remember sitting, I was just like, man, I can't wait to see this. I can't wait. I want you to kind of take us the journey on this podcast, the birth of that idea to where it is, and as I show the pictures of Park Avenue.
Certainly. It's funny how everything kind of goes back to I-35 and my journeys to Austin, right? There's a lot of time to think and contemplate. And there was a company that was converting old shipping containers into makeshift offices for construction sites.
Okay.
And I just, every day you drive by on the way back and you just kind of look over. And finally, one day I stopped and I went and I spoke with the salespeople. And you walk in and you realize, man, this is nice. This is really cool because, you're looking at 10-foot ceilings. It's not what I had expected, right, when I walked in. Get back in the car and I'm like thinking to myself, I wonder why they don't build more homes utilizing that material, And time moves on. And it's always at the back of your mind. I jumped back into real estate back in 2013. And that's a whole different story. I mean, when I talk about the losses and the lessons learned, well, 2008 hurt a lot of people.
Yes.
I've walked into closings with a $20,000 check and I'm the seller.
Oh.
And that's not hurts. A good, oh man, right? And so getting back into real estate, we were rehabbing commercial and residential properties. I owned land by the Pearl, and I had this idea, walking out of the Pearl one day, the timing, right? It's like jump rope. It's like, when do you jump in? When do you actually execute on that idea? Right. And the pearl represents everything that is right about recycle, repurpose, reuse, and
True.
doing so in a way that is beautiful. And so that's when it hit me, like, that this is the time. Like, the time is now. The temperature is right. The water is perfect. You have to do it. And so at the time, I just so happened to own a piece of land that was across the street from Hotel Emma. And I spoke with my general contractor, and he's like us. He's all in,
Yep.
gung-ho. And so we began to embark upon that journey. I would engage and talk to my mentors, all right? Because I'm real big on mentorship. I think that mentors help you avoid a lot of costly mistakes. They give you perspectives because they have achieved a level of success that allows for them to be a lot more palatable if they shoot you down, because you go, okay, I'm looking at what you've done. Who am I to question you?
They got skins on the wall.
They have them, right? And so when I began to kind of venture out, I'm testing the waters, I'm asking questions. These are industry experts. And crazy enough, I knew I was on the right track when I was called crazy.
So one of your mentors said, that's a crazy idea.
They were like, that'll never work.
Wow. Interesting.
Right? And I'm a prolific reader, right? I love Steve Jobs. I love, Bill Gates. I love just the story of how they ended up where they are. And the one thing that was common throughout, a lot of the most successful entities that we have is, people thought they were crazy. They thought that the idea of what they were proposing was insane.
Yep.
And they never second guessed themselves. Mm-hmm. And so in that line of thinking, it kind of reaffirmed, because they're not telling me I'm crazy because of the idea of creating a luxury home utilizing shipping containers. Right. They're just telling me I'm crazy.
Right. Yeah.
Why would you do that?
Right. Yeah.
I mean, why wouldn't you just do it out of wood? Like, so that showed me that you're not getting it. You don't understand. I'm trying to use an alternative material to accomplish the same goal, but do so in a way that's, more efficient, stronger, more secure, and has a longer shelf life than the traditional model that we're currently used to. And I've built homes out of traditional materials, traditional being, lumber.
Yep.
There's nothing wrong with it. I just think there's a better way. There has to be a better way, right? Yep. And so in embarking upon that journey, they were adding, just pure gasoline to a match, right? Because that's all it was an idea. So
now you had to prove it that you could do it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because my vision was not being questioned. It was the idea.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm like, if you don't get the idea, that's one thing. If you're giving me tangibles as to why not, that's a different story altogether. Right. You're just saying, shit, why not? Yeah. Just use traditional materials.
Yeah.
That wasn't the point.
Yeah.
The point was to use an alternative material to accomplish the same task. And can it be done?
Yeah.
And so as we embarked upon that journey, the affirmations that I would receive further kind of inspired me to pursue it and to push it. Right. And then you start talking to experts, and then you start looking at, what's being done globally utilizing this material. Yeah. So I'm not crazy, right? It's just something that we're not currently being done on a mass production here in the United States. But you go to Europe, you go, everywhere in the world, no one uses wood to construct. It's either cement or steel. Yeah. So that idea was being reinforced. It was constantly being reinforced. And so as we pursued to put this into fruition, and I saw the first unit kind of go up in a week, so we go from having nothing to having 3,000 square foot of framed residential. Yeah. It's proof positive, right? Yeah. So, if you're framing a 3,000 square foot house, how long does it take you versus, in 1 week I had my floors, my ceilings, my perimeter walls already done. I'm getting that. All right, check that off. Yes, you're crazy, but it worked.
Right.
And then, it became the question of luxury. How do you change the aesthetic of this metal box into something that is beautiful?
Yeah.
Well, that's now more in line with just traditional construction. And my partner and general contractor, Brent Schaefer, with B.E. Schaefer Custom Homes, I had to give him a shout out.
Sure.
He knows luxury, right? He knows material. He works with material. That's his passion.
Yeah.
So when we got together and we started really massaging it out, we were able to produce the thing that couldn't be produced.
Okay.
And so that was really the story of kind of walking, that process. And I turned unlikely people into, mentors,
right.
Meeting with Silver Ventures over at Pearl and sharing with them the idea of what we were doing and getting their feedback. And they really kind of gave me that positive push. Like,
that's cool.
That, look, when we decided to, or when the manager of that fund decided to transition an old brewery into a live, work, play environment, we thought he was crazy.
Is that right?
Absolutely.
Wow, I did not know that.
Because he didn't want any national chains. He didn't want to replicate anything that had been done. He was creating it from his head. He wanted to bring something sustainable to the city of San Antonio that celebrated what Pearl Brewery meant to the city and to that community, but then doing so in a way that he was supporting, small entrepreneurs, small businesses.
That's cool.
Johnny Hernandez,
right?
Who opened up his first footprint within, the Pearl confines, bringing the Culinary Institute of America to the city of San Antonio.
Huge.
They didn't even want to come.
Wow.
Right? They told him he must be crazy.
Yeah.
So that word kept coming up, right? And the reason was because San Antonio is known for Tex-Mex. Why would we bring a culinary institute and place it within the city of San Antonio when there's Chicago, there's New York, there's Houston, and they ran these stores? He goes, well, I'll pay for it.
Wow. I did not know that.
He said, I'll pay for it. And
That's
they said,
cool.
If you're paying for it, well, come on. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so we've seen what a visionary, who is undeterred by the naysayers, we've seen what that produces. And the Pearl has just been an unbelievable success, more so than anything we've seen in my 12 years being here in the city.
So true.
Right? I mean, it is a place where families come and gather. We can go and listen to live music. There's a green space. There's everything that was
Jazz Texas.
Jazz Texas. Oh my gosh. Right?
Shout out.
Exactly. LSA, right?
LSA. Yeah.
So, when I had the opportunity to sit down and listen to that story, again, I believe God speaks to us in mysterious ways.
Yep.
Right? We get whispers constantly. It's whether or not we choose to hear them.
Yeah.
And those were whispers for me.
Yeah.
That I keep moving.
Okay.
Stop. Don't allow the sludge that you're in to stop you, because you can still move.
Yeah.
It's not cement. It's just mud.
Yeah.
So you just got to keep walking to get out of the mud.
Yeah.
And so, those were motivators for me to continue. And I use individuals like yourself. I would always talk about the project. I'd always throw it out there as to what it was we were doing, what our goals were. And I want to hear what the market is going to say. Yeah. And, man, that sounds cool, with the scrunched up face. Can't wait to see that.
Yeah, let me know when it's finished.
Yeah, right. Let me know. And we've encountered some, various delays, which is not uncommon in development. Yeah. But every delay, man, for me, it was 10 times the delay. True. Because you're being delayed because of the material. Right. You've hit a rock, you've hit a stone. Yeah. When these were just traditional, run of the mill, developmental services delays. Right. Things that everybody kind of encounters along the way. And there is that embarrassment that comes along with it, where it's like, man, I didn't hit that benchmark. I didn't hit this. Yeah. As an entrepreneur, you're going to learn really quickly that you can be embarrassed, but you can't allow embarrassment to consume you. So true. Right. I cannot be concerned with the thoughts of others. I can't let another human being take me out of my position through their words or their thoughts or their feelings. I can't even be concerned. All I can say is, hey, this is going to be a hell of a journey. Ride with me or sit on the sidelines and have all of the opinions that you want. Don't share them with me because I'm not interested. And we keep it moving. And so that is, that is a part of that journey. And so once those windows went up, once those, the drywall went up, once the floors go in, once the lighting goes in, now, right? People are like, I knew it. That's beautiful.
Like, yes.
But that's not containers.
Yeah, of course.
Right?
Those are sticks out there, right?
Right. It's like, those can't be.
Right.
What happened to the interior walls? How did you get an open floor plan? How did you do this? Right.
It's patented.
Absolutely.
Right.
So,
and that process, I can imagine, was really tough.
I'm transparent, and I believe if I have an answer to your question, I don't get any power in keeping it from you. I'm going to give you all of me all the time. So I never really stopped assisting businesses. So when I walked away from the governor's office, if someone called me and they had a question regarding international business, if they had a question, I would always feel that call. I would still go and do speeches or talks on behalf of the office in the field. When I began to invest in businesses, I'm helping a small business that has the potential for growth and expansion. So it just so happens that one of those businesses that I had provided a lot of time and assistance, he had filed over 25 patents.
Oh, wow.
Shout out to Angel 7 Industries. And he sat me down and says, oh man, all you have to do is, and what is a mountain to me was an anthill to him.
Oh, wow.
Because he had gone through the process.
So he stepped you through it.
No, he did it for me.
Oh, wow.
So, when you constantly are a blessing to others, they become blessings to you. And nothing is more true in this world. I'll tell you, to help your fellow man is more rewarding than you could possibly imagine. There is no nobility in knowing or hiding knowledge or keeping an expertise and putting it in your pocket because you don't want people to know. It's so true. You have to give it, right? And as you give it, you receive it. And that was one of those situations where he walked in and he's like, man, I do this in my sleep.
That's so cool. I didn't know that story. And Robert, that's cool.
He had me on the phone with his attorneys out in Chicago, and they did it all on pro bono.
Oh my goodness!
And a lot of it is because of the good faith that we put out there. And I'm not trying to sound like a wise man or anything, but it's just those old lessons, right?
I think the piece to this that's really important for entrepreneurs to capture in this, what you just shared, is that in your journey you're going to come across people who need help, and there can be almost this this nature sometimes, and I feel it as an entrepreneur. Sometimes you can feel like, this is my time, but I've over this course of I've only been an entrepreneur for about 7 years. And my business, Luxury Realm Magazine, really was an entrepreneur. I was a teacher before that, okay? But I think that we get opportunities to step in and help. And every one of those moments is a building block to our legacy, right? It's a building block to something in the future. Not that we're giving to, get something in return, but just giving because, someone gave to me down, not too long ago. Someone sat me down and said, hey, don't do that again.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So I do think there's this, you do have to be giving in this process of being an entrepreneur.
I agree 1,000%.
Yeah.
There is nothing beneficial in hiding information, right? It's all about sharing. And if I have an answer, I'm going to give you my honest opinion. I don't want to see anyone fail.
Right.
I want to see you succeed. And if I can be a part of that story, and I don't want credit. You don't have to give me a shout out.
Right.
It's just, I know that, we all go through dark moments. Especially in the entrepreneurial journey, right? And it's, if I can be a beacon of light for that temporary moment of doubt, of that temporary moment of self-questioning, then, you know, that makes me feel good.
That's right.
And I try to live my life that way.
That's good. Now, let's talk about the finish, because one of the units is pretty much done.
We're done.
I know. I've seen the pictures, and I'm going to put the pictures on the screen. But I think later when we do this actual YouTube, we're going to actually put them so that full res. So as you're talking about this, so talk about this project now that people can drive by and they're like, he did it.
Right.
Talk about the project at Park Avenue, right by the Pearl. Talk about it.
So
while I pull up these pictures.
Absolutely. So what we built at the Pearl, or on Park Avenue, near the Pearl, is 4 2,680 square foot units that are built utilizing shipping containers as the perimeter wall of the units.
Right. So you can see that right here. You obviously can't tell.
Right.
That is a shipping container.
So,
although if you look at the end, you can kind of see it.
Right.
At the very end.
We did that on purpose, because now what we're encountering is these aren't shipping containers. And,
really?
And that's part of the journey, right? Is that I need you to appreciate that the use of the material can be constructed in a way that is beautiful, appealing, aesthetically pleasing. And the only way we can do it is to keep those doors on,
right,
so that they can walk in and be like, well, how will those shipping container doors be there if it's not a shipping container? Because nothing about the construction lends itself to be deemed a shipping container. We're 24 feet wide. We're 40 feet deep. If you go to any other townhomes in the area, they're 20 feet wide, 24 feet wide, 16 feet wide, 40, 30 feet deep. So visually, it looks to be the same.
Yeah.
The only difference is that behind that sheetrock is steel. Yeah. So the structural integrity of our building is a lot more durable than that of traditional construction. Yeah. This home is going to be around for the next 300 years. There is nothing that can deteriorate on the inside of those walls.
Right.
So from a home value perspective, you don't have to worry about the traditional cost associated with home maintenance, because you don't have that interior kind of fluctuation that you have with traditional materials.
Yeah.
And speaking from experience, I know that when you build with traditional materials and you try to do something that may be outside of the box, well, there has to be a load calculation that has to be taken into consideration, or you will have structural failures.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the most exciting things about what we're doing, is that this is going to be a home for the next 100 years.
Yeah.
And that your grandkids can come back, and that idea of home ownership and pride in home ownership is going to still be there.
Yeah, I love it. Now, just to see the beauty, I want to talk about this living room. I'm going to show a picture, because when I saw this, I was like, man, he did it. I love this picture. Look at that. We got to give a shout out to Rick Garza. My goodness.
No, he did a fantastic job.
This is amazing.
And so what's being shown is really the coup de grace when it comes to our material, right?
Right.
There are no structural walls in this shot. The beauty of it is that you get that open floor plan that we've become so accustomed to,
right,
that allows for you to have your kitchen that oversees the dining area and the living area where families congregate. I mean, this is where you're going to spend 90% of your time is in the kitchen.
Yep.
Right. And this shows that nothing is compromised in utilizing the material.
Yeah.
That if anything, you're able to get that beauty, that luxury that you want and that you desire with even added structural kind of security, without having to worry about anything, because this kitchen is sitting above the first floor.
Right.
On the other units, the kitchen sits on the third floor.
Yeah.
So it really lends itself for a multitude of variation when it comes to how you lay out that floor plan.
That's killer. I want to show, I love this picture too, because you can kind of get a shot back, into the kitchen. I mean, you guys, you did it right. You did it right, Robert. I mean, that kitchen looks awesome.
Thank you.
Nice work on that. Talk to me a little bit about, obviously when you do a project like this, you've got people that say, "Okay, my goodness, this is crazy. You're going to do shipping. You're going to make it luxury." Tell me something in terms of going through this process. What do you think is the biggest thing that you've learned in this process to put this because now the proof of concept is here. And that was the big thing we talked about in our cigar session.
Absolutely.
Proof of concept is here. What have you learned from this project that you're going to take to your next project that you mentioned to me?
There's several. And proof of concept has been proven, right? So we've already sold a unit. We have...
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. We have several interested parties in the completed unit, and then you have others that are looking to modify the floor plan in units 2 and 3. So the fire has been lit. I can kind of exhale and breathe a little bit easier. The lessons that we learned here are several, and the biggest one for me, and this is going to sound a little kind of funny, but when people show you who they are, believe them.
Listen,
believe them, right?
Right.
Don't attempt to make someone what or who they're not.
Okay.
That was a huge lesson, because in construction is a dirty game.
Yep.
I mean, when it comes to material costs, when it comes to workforce, when it comes to subcontractors, I mean, it's something that you have to have your eyes on the ball at all times. And in working with this material and kind of encountering some of the obstacles that we have, when someone shows you who they are, don't try to make them somebody else or something else. Don't make excuses for who or what they have exposed themselves to be. That's the life pearl that came out of the project.
Which is a good one.
Absolutely. No, we won't make that mistake again.
Right.
I assure you. But from a construction standpoint, we've learned that the material lends itself for so much more than what we even gave in the first project.
Interesting.
So one of the next projects that we're working on, which is on the corner of St. Mary's and Euclid.
Okay.
Shout out to the Tobin Hill Community Association.
Yes.
Because we're working very closely with them to kind of refine our design. But what we're able to do is create units that are so unique to the buyer's wants.
Right.
That we can put concrete floors on the 3rd floor. We can put, a concrete accent wall on the backside to give you that New York or that East Coast, Soho warehouse district feel without compromising the structural integrity.
That's cool.
And so, one of the things that we're looking to do on that project is, have 3 different models where you have that open industrial look, where you have polished concrete floors, you have the raw brick accent walls, you have that open floor plan, and you're overlooking, the beautiful downtown of San Antonio. Your neighbor above you can be as traditional as they want to be. The neighbor below can be as modern as they want to be. So the material really affords us an opportunity to really showcase, a level of living that is not able to be showed when you use traditional materials, because you can't pour concrete on the 2nd floor,
right?
Because you're dealing with structural issues at that point. So we're really gonna kind of allow for the creative juices to flow. We've gotten with a really innovative, hungry architectural firm that is really coming with some really wild designs for us. And I'll share those with you as they are produced. And so, it's exciting. Like you get the burden of transitioning that thought process off your back. Now it's about, let's create.
That's right.
Let's have fun.
Well, let's flex some muscles.
Let's show what we can do.
That's exciting.
We're really excited about that.
I got to tell you, man, congratulations. Because, I remember in those cigar sessions, I was trying to really envision your catch that passion.
Correct.
Right? And you've outdone even what I thought. Like I'm blown away. This is fantastic.
That means a lot.
And I can't wait to walk in this because I haven't got the chance to see this personally. So we're gonna have to make that happen.
Absolutely.
ASAP.
Absolutely.
So for people that if they're interested, they're listening, they're like, I want to go see this. Who do they need to call?
They need to get in contact with Sandra Rangel.
Yep.
I shut my phone off as a courtesy.
Oh, I appreciate that.
I would give her contact information.
Yeah. We could put that in the video. We'll have their
absolutely.
number on there. Yep.
Sandra's
Sandra Rangel.
Absolute amazing realtor. I've had the pleasure of working with her for over 10 years. She's very aggressive, very personable. Just an amazing human being.
Yes.
So she would be able to provide them with all the information that they need regarding this project, as well as Legacy Lofts on St. Mary's.
Legacy Lofts. I can't wait to see that. So we're going to switch gears because I've only got time for one more question.
Sure.
All right. So there's a book that was written by Tim Ferriss. You know Tim Ferriss?
I do not.
He wrote the 4-Hour Work Week. That was kind of like his big book. And then he wrote a book called A Tribe of Mentors, which I think this is right up your alley. The book is like this thick, Robert. It's a monster, okay?
Thank God for Audible.
Yeah, exactly. But what he did was really interesting. He asked the same questions to a group of people. And he tried to go after all of these people that were the top of their industry. And he wanted to get like, hey, here are my questions. You know, I want you to answer all these questions. And then he put it in a book form. So he took everything they wrote and he put it in a book form. And the questions are like, they're all over the place. There's some real light. There's some real deep. They're all over the place. But I think the question that I think would be really interesting, because I know you like to read. So here's the question that I think we'll wrap up on this, is that people like to give books as gifts. What book, and it didn't have to be one, but what book would you say, man, I've given this away, or maybe you haven't given it away, but you know you want to, but that has had the biggest impact on your life, and why?
Wow. Yeah, you caught me. As a Man Thinketh.
Ooh, I know that book.
I received that as a gift when I graduated from high school.
Who gave you that book?
My mother.
Really?
My mother. She gave me As a Man Thinketh, and I read it, and it had an impact at the moment.
Yeah.
And then as you go through college, I read it again, right? And it has a different meaning and a different impact.
Yeah.
Upon graduation, I read it again. Different meaning, different impact.
Yeah.
When you hit that period of doubt, questioning, what's next? How should I move? You read it again. Yeah. And it's always been a book that I've turned to help me realign my energies and my focus on what's important.
Right.
Prioritizing, understanding what role I play in the overall outcome that I'm seeking. And when you mentioned giving it away, it was when I was in law school. And that law school is just overly stressful for no apparent reason. But I'm sitting there and you know, you go through and you go, man, is it worth it? Do I want to be here? It wasn't the difficulty of the studies as much as it was the actual, do I want to practice? You know, and so you read the book. And at the time, I had a lot of my dear friends who were in medical school, or, you know, they're starting their own business, or they were doing just different things. And I got a refund check from, you know, when you're in your school, you get your, your stipend.
Yep.
And I had just finished reading the book, and it leaves you with a high, right? Because you realize that, you know, what you plant, and really, I've actually been referencing a lot of the metaphors that they use in the book throughout our discussion today is, you know, what you plant, you know, so shall you reap. But in order for you to reap the fruit that you plant, you have to, you know, manage that environment that seed is growing in. You have to make sure that you are weeding the garden. You have to make sure that you're providing the appropriate amount of water, the sunshine. Because if you don't, that seed cannot see its full potential.
Right.
Because there are outside factors. So I went out and I bought like 15 of those books.
Okay.
And I just started sending them out like crazy because it was like a light bulb had gone off. I was not going to practice law. I was going to go into business. This is that moment that, you know, it's okay. I need to water a different, you know, seed. It's still in the same garden, but, you know, application is different.
Yep.
And the one thing in that book that stands out the most is that whether you plant a seed or not, something's going to grow.
Yeah.
Right? So whether I go out and I plant a seed and the garden is your mind,
yes,
something is going to grow. Yeah. Right? And that growth may not be what you want. It may be weeds. It may be naysayers. It may be, you know, forces that are not going to want you to succeed or see the best Tomas that they can see. But something will prosper in that soil regardless of your actions. So it behooves you to get out there and till that soil and to put things that are going to produce fruit intentionally.
Yeah.
Versus feeding that soil with nothing or with foolishness that are going to reap, you know, fruit that are not edible.
Yeah.
And so I wasn't expecting that question, but yeah, as a man thinketh is definitely my 100% go-to over the last over 20 plus years.
Yeah. I had a really good friend of mine, Johnny Morris. Hopefully he's listening. He was going through an interesting time in his life, and he said, look, I need a book. I need a book. And that's the book that I sent him. Because that book, you can get a PDF. So everybody that's listening, you can literally download the PDF. There's no excuse not to find this book. Go get the PDF and read it. It is amazing. I love that book.
That's funny. I actually have a copy in the car for you.
Oh, you do? Really? That's fantastic.
No, I mean, it really, it's one of those. And I believe that, you know, you have to feed yourself with that type of energy, right?
Yes.
It's about surrounding yourself with people like yourself and understanding, you know, that and trusting that they want to see the best for you and vice versa. Yeah. And it really supports that idea. You know, my grandfather used to say, if you ever question how people look at you, show me the three friends you hang out with the most. Right?
Right.
And it's not until later, once again, those pearls that he would drop in that old, you know, young brain. And then it's not until later that you ask that question and then you go, well, who am I hanging out with the most?
Yep.
Because that's your peer group. That's what people are seeing.
Yep.
And so, I'm
That's
happy
awesome
to hang out with you and smoke cigars sometime.
Listen, we got to do another cigar session
Absolutely.
ASAP. Well, listen, Robert, you've been on TM3 Impact. I want to thank you for your time and congratulations. We're definitely going to make sure we get the number so people can learn more about your both projects that you have coming up. And we wish you even more success in the future, my friend. Keep grinding, and we'll be talking soon, my friend. Take care.
Pleasure was mine. Thank you very much.
All right.